one of my, like a class that really got me to my core and to my spirituality was a class at Starr King, the Unitarian Universalist Seminary, and there was a class called Neo-Pagan Earth Ritual. So, and it's one of our requirements to take a class from a different religion than yours and have that class be taught by a practitioner. So the person that was teaching the class was a PhD student who is pagan. And it was really so eye-opening, number one, to walk into a class where they had a completely different theological language than I'd ever heard before. And just being blown away by that and realizing, wow, everyone else who isn't Christian comes to like our Christian classrooms and thinks that too, and thinks that in a church too. And number one, that was just amazing to be immersed in a different culture and religion. And number two, it was such a wonderful way for me to connect with a lot of different things in my spirituality, and how wonderful it was to connect with nature and to see a lot of different practices that pagans and Wiccans and neo-pagans do that are just really life-giving and meaningful, and being able to experience that through the eyes of people that are actually practitioners of that religion.
At the GTU, I've also taken a lot of really impactful classes. I think the one that stands out in my mind the most, though, I just took last semester, is called Writing Your Journey, and it's sort of a creative writing class, first-person point of view, sort of memoirish sort of stuff. What would happen is we would gather every Tuesday night, I think it was, and we would read to each other our 800-word stories surrounding a given topic. And given the breadth of experience and faith journeys in the class and different, I remember there were two of us who were Lutheran, there was Catholic, there was UCC, there was Disciples of Christ, there was a Jewish priestess in our class, and a bunch of others. And it was so interesting to read everybody's and hear everybody's stories surrounding things like objects of desire or grief or journey and transformation. It was also really helpful for me in that I began to be able to process my own stories and my own life in a spiritual way, which is something I hadn't intentionally done before. And I think I did that after internship because I think knowing my own story will help me understand and hear other people's stories in pastoral care conversations.
A particularly impactful class that I've taken at the GTU was my Spirits and Nematology class. It was a class that was quite small, and the dynamics of the class was really fascinating. We had at least one person from every continent except for Antarctica represented there. And only half of the class was English their primary language. So that alone created really interesting and fascinating conversation. But the class itself really helped me develop a stronger Trinitarian theology. I think oftentimes as Lutherans, we forget about the Holy Spirit. And this really helped me create a fuller and better understanding of the whole Trinity.
Okay, so there are two classes, and I took them this last year, and they are my favorite classes by far. Father Michael Morris at the Dominican School of Theology and Philosophy. Yes. They have a class, or he has a class called Theology and Cinema. And in the first course, you go through and you watch older videos, basically from the earliest movies about religious focuses, and then towards more modern. Then the second semester that he did with us was only in contemporary cinema. So we would go to movie theaters and then come back and talk about those theologically. I absolutely loved it because what we were able to do is take something that all of us already know, visual media, and relate it to who we are as theologians, as people who are going to become pastors or priests, and just make something, just make it like faith alive rather than just something that people do. It was something that you live and something you view the world through. So that's been amazing to me.
Last semester at the GTU, I took a class called Taking Her Word. It was a class on feminist hermeneutics and pastoral theology. And within that class, there were 10 of us, and we represented 7 different countries, and probably even more different religious traditions within that. And we were all gathered for this seminar to talk about real women's issues and how theology either complements or challenges that in a way that's pastoral. And just to have that experience with these women, asking hard questions and sharing our very different experiences, it seemed like an out-of-this-world experience. Because where else but the GTU would you get that kind of classroom experience?